Let's just breathe together for a moment. And come into awareness of our physical experience. How is it just now to be in the skin, the bones that hold us up, circulation of blood, the material aspect of being. If I say, "Who are you?" you might immediately notice the physical experience, the body. We identify and over-identify with the physical manifestation, the picture, the emergence of karma, the effect in an infinite sequence of causes and effects. The effect here is our karmic identity, the manifestation of cause, not just one cause. Maybe ultimately somewhere deep, deep, deep in infinite history, a first cause, but for our purposes here, understanding that what we experience is the result of causes. We're in the effect, and those effects are creating more causes, which create more effects. And this cycle is karma. Cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect. And we're limited in our faculties of understanding what this manifestation, what this sequence is all about. Therefore, the Buddhist teachings of meditation, understanding the 5 aggregates, the causes and conditions, as we might say in 12-step thinking, is about examining, observing, deepening presence in awareness of these aspects of our condition. So we notice the physical aspect first. We might notice the senses. We might spend time in long-term retreat, noticing only the senses, the sensory input, registering that input as it comes, noticing and acknowledging the ideas, emotions which result from the sensory input. Ultimately, in the first turning of the wheel of Dharma, the teaching is about noticing that while there's something, certainly, we are having an experience. We do see, hear, taste, touch, feel things. Since those experiences are impermanent, we can understand on a deeper level that the experience is not concrete. It's not and does not arise of its own. It arises from a previous cause. And understanding and penetrating into the cause and effect sequence in such a manner as to realize that while there is something relative, there is something apparent, there's also nothing. We can think of this as absolute. The two truths, as I mentioned in a previous podcast. So in our meditation, we can come to physical stillness and be aware of our physical dimension and notice the sensory input. And as we deepen our practice, we become aware of the transitory nature of experience, the cause and effect, the dependent origination, as it's called in Buddhism. So we might spend our life, or many lives, or billions of eons, in pursuit of such knowledge and such experience, depending on where we look for teachings and what we practice and what our understanding is and what we're trying to do. Another level of our experience is energetic. And the energetic is connected to the emotional. And we feel. So I have an experience. There's a wave on my arm of the warm San Diego breeze. I think it's around 80 here, mid-January. Pretty cool. If by cool you understand that I mean warm. And that little sensation on my arm is really empty of meaning. I mean, it might tell my body something on some level, like, hey, you don't need a sweater. I think it would be odd to wear a sweater around here in San Diego, especially during the day. Although if it gets below 60, some people wear parkas and earmuffs and gloves, and that's a different story. But the sensory input itself is just what it is. And we have a perception, we have a sensation, and we have a perception. And the perception leads to, perhaps we ignore it, but perhaps it means something. Perhaps we have an emotional experience. If you were to pluck one of these hairs out of my arm, I'd have an emotional experience. Probably be pissed off. If you were to stroke my arm gently, and you're like a nice, pretty lady, I might have a different emotional response, right? So I just noticed this. There's a physical dimension that's plugged into, it's connected, it's really inseparable from the energetic dimension. Like, what is the energy? How can we explore energy? There's a lot of stuff out there about energy, and I mean, I have Reiki transmission and several systems of energy healing transmission, so I'm aware of and try to work with this, but it's a very, it's a much more subtle experience, isn't it, than the gross dimension. I don't mean gross like, we're bags of shit and piss and puke and bile and blood and guts, which we are, but gross as in, an apparently more solid, more material dimension or aspect. And they're subtle, and the energy is more subtle. And the teachings around energy are more subtle. So the first turning of the wheel of Dharma is not about the energy dimension. However, if we look at Hinduism, we look at Vedanta, we look at Ayurveda, we look at Chinese medicine, Tibetan medicine, Taoism, other systems, we are working with energy. We're working at the energetic level. So we can simply be aware of what's happening at the energy level. We can certainly receive teachings and work at the energy level. But in our meditation in this moment, as it is, we might just simply be aware of energy. And that might make the mind go, what? Where's the energy at? It's moving. It's subtle. We have to tune our focus, our drishti, our focus, as we say in yoga. So the meditator tunes the lens or the earpiece to the vibration and the subtle vibration. And if we were to sit still and be still, such as in a seated meditation practice or a lying down, shavasana practice in yoga, for example. In extended periods of time, we may increase our awareness of energy, subtle manifestations. Connected to this are thoughts. There is a series of mind teachings. The mental dimension, and really my deep early introduction to Zen from Joko Beck was about, hey, get a little bit of space between you and those thoughts. So the mistake here is trying to hide between the thoughts, trying to seek shelter between the thoughts, to try to not have the thoughts. It's not really the point. That's a big mistake. It's a death trap in Dharma. It's a death trap. And if we try to, squeeze between the thoughts and live there and not have thoughts, then we're missing the point. Because thoughts, which are even more subtle than energy, which is even more subtle than physical level, material level, thoughts are connected to the relative. Thoughts are part of the phenomenal world, the phenomenal universe. And the universe is phenomenal, and it's filled with infinite phenomenon. It's filled, the universe, of karma, cause and effect. There are infinite causes, infinite time, infinite effects, infinite manifestations. So we try to come into awareness of this and notice that our thoughts are part of this, part of the cause and effect cycle. We're pretty retarded, or if you want to be PC, developmentally disabled, honestly, in terms of development spiritually, we're developmentally disabled in our ability to notice how one thought causes another thought, how one thought causes an emotion, how emotion causes a thought, how these things manifest in our physical body, how our physical body creates our identity. And all these things are interwoven, intertwined in such a manner as to keep us pretty freaking baffled most of the time, pretty confused, pretty distracted. But the purpose, the point of the meditation is to increase the awareness, is to penetrate into the awareness of space, infinite space, of nothing, the awareness of nothing, awareness as nothing. So, yes, beyond thought. But, like I've been saying, and I'm not a Ken Wilber fan. I have criticisms, I have problems with him and his ideas and his presentation, particularly the new one, labeling the fourth turning of the wheel of Dharma. It's not his job, but that's another story. But, Ken's talking about things that do make sense on a lot of levels. So one of them is to transcend and include. So we transcend the material, which includes, of course, the energetic, which includes, of course, these are the three gates, right? Body, speech, and mind. Speech is / energy, right? We transcend the relative, right? In nothing. Nothing is nothing. Even if I say nothing is nothing, that's subject and object. That's still dualistic thinking. So we're either dualistic or we're non-dualistic. And the point of the teachings, really, up to this point, is to, if we're going to be in samsara, which we are, I'm not saying we don't have a choice. We do have a choice. That's why it's a path. That's why there's a path of total liberation out of suffering. We do have a choice. But in the meantime, we're pretty confused. We're pretty distracted. We're pretty baffled about how it is and what it is, and we think it is something that it isn't. We make decisions based on relativity, not based on nothing, but based on something. So, not to oversimplify it, but it is simple. It is simple, but it is not easy, as we say in 12-step. To penetrate to the real deeper essence, to the real essence, which is nothing. The essence is nothing. No thing. No thing means it's not attached to or tied to a material thing. It's beyond cause and effect in that it's not part of the sequence. Unborn, no beginning, no end. We might call it nirvana. We might call it dharmakaya. We might describe it from various vantage points. For example, body, energy, mind. But if we're in this, which we are, we can certainly use the tools. For example, Buddha manifests physical body, physical dimension, uttering words, energy dimension, which represent thoughts, mental dimension. What? Buddha manifests here in samsara. Buddha manifests here in this dimension, in our dimension, and is therefore subject to this dimension in ways that, we all are, but also beyond this dimension. So simultaneously something and nothing. And getting to this is the deal in Dharma, and the one that is the point that is missed. It is not about bypassing thoughts. It is not about bypassing the physical body, although ultimately we do transcend these. But we have these experiences, and as we have these experiences of the physical, emotional / energetic and mental experiences, can we use them? Well, Buddha was here in this dimension, so Buddha's a pretty good kind of version of cause and effect. Not like a nasty, suffering, ugly, gross, sick, disturbed, insane, crazy, ugly, crappy manifestation. Buddha's like deity. Buddha's like fully realized, enlightened, omniscient, right? Yet still here. So there's a spectrum, but we're still evaluating. All I'm saying is that instead of trying to transcend too quickly, which is the mark of the spiritual bypasser, which I'm guilty of, which we're all guilty of on some level, until we're not, right? Instead of trying to transcend, try to include. So be in your body, really be in your body, really be in your body, and really be aware of your energy and your emotion, and really notice your thoughts. And then if we want to, we can have, we can choose new intentions, I think it's kind of horseshit to tell people, just think it and it'll manifest, and the secret and blah, blah, blah. I think it's like, you're telling people, there's a whole diatribe I could go on about this, but don't put the cart before the horse. Get into a clear state, settle in, and then manifest pure intention. Manifest as pure of an intention as you can possibly imagine. If you don't know what that means, read some Mahayana teachings. Read the 37 practices of the Bodhisattva, and so on, right? So we can look at ways while we're in samsara, while we're in the relative condition, while we are in the condition of cause and effect, infinite causes manifesting infinite results in infinite time, infinite space. While we're here, we can use tools such as body, such as speech, such as mind, to put those aspects of our existence onto and into a path to ultimately transcend, or to transcend in the moment, and use that as support and confidence, and to continue transcending. Transcend and include. I borrow this term from Ken Wilber, but what we mean here is being in the world and being of the world at the same time. So I'll leave you with that to mull over. We do have the 12-Step Buddhist Retreat, January 31st at Brightonbush. I do have a few spots paid for if someone is in need. This is 2014, so if you hear this later in the future, which is still now for you, right? Just as this is now for me, that won't be valid anymore. But if you're hearing this before January 31st, 2014, you might email me, Darren at the12stepbuddhist.com. If you can make the retreat, we can talk about it. The 12-Step Buddhist is available on Amazon and everywhere. The Power of Vow is available on Amazon and not quite everywhere, so please ask for it in your bookstore. Ask them for it. There's copies in the libraries too. So I have more to say and more to talk about. The weather in San Diego is phenomenal, which is great, and also part of the infinite cause and effect sequence. You know, our minds are so focused on the micro that we really have no concept of the macro. And we need a Buddha to show up, boom, and reveal some, you know, more penetrating analysis of the situation. Some of you may be bothered by the term analysis if you don't want to think about things. You want to just shut off your mind because you don't feel that you're in control of your mind. So it makes sense. I understand how you feel, and I respect how you feel, and I feel that way sometimes too, but it's not about shutting it off. It's not about transcending before we include. It's about being in the body, completely, totally, being with our feelings, being with our emotions, being with our energy, being aware at the subtle, 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 most subtle, most subtle, most subtle, most subtle levels. And then we can see those thoughts like little reflections on the water, a little sparkle of moonlight on the water. It's a thought. It comes and goes. Doesn't mean we don't have thoughts. Doesn't mean we don't think about things. It doesn't mean, as Joko taught me, that we don't use the mind to balance the checkbook. Try to do that without your thoughts. You need your thoughts, right? We're here. Ultimately, we'll transcend. We'll transcend in some moments. But we include, and just sit in the space of the ocean of infinite space. Just sit in it, just be in it, breathe in it, move in it, walk in it. Love others in it. Open your heart. Give people hugs. Give people things. Give people food. Give people your presence, your awareness, your compassion. Give people your ear. Give people the time of fucking day, why don't you? Instead of just passing everybody as if they don't matter to you. They matter, because we're all part of the infinite. We're all part of the source. You know, we're all interconnected in this infinite matrix of energy manifestations, you know. We're all interconnected, interdependent. Buddha taught us that, so. Have a heart, why don't you? I'll do the same. We'll talk more, people. Peace out.